All right, everyone, back with another review here for the sequel to Ted, Ted 2. This sequel came out 3 years after the first one, and a little different than the first in the sense that Mila Kunis is no longer in this one. She was pregnant at the time, and so she was written out. They got divorced. What a great happy way to start the movie. It actually does start out in a really cool way, actually, with Ted getting married to Tammy Lynn and the big musical number. Like, I would love for Seth MacFarlane to direct a musical. I think he could do really great with his love of Sinatra and such like that. I think he could make a really great musical with how the opening of this movie is directed. It's done really well. I said Ted, if you watch my review for Ted, that Ted is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Ted 2 is not one of my favorite comedies of all time. This is 45% Rotten Tomatoes, and I happen to kind of agree with that. This movie, for me, just lost what was special about the first. The first one had a really great story. In this movie, there is an interesting story that I did like. The idea that Ted is not considered a person is an interesting thing, but it's also bombarded by a bunch of other stuff. There's Johnny getting over his divorce. There is there's Tammy Lynn and Ted not getting along right away, and so they need to have a child, and then they can't have a child, and then then Ted's not a person. You could have gotten rid of all that other stuff and just Ted's not a person. That would have been enough. Instead, you got bombarded it with all this other crap. Something that this movie does that the first Ted did not is it feels like an SNL skit, which is funny because there literally is a scene of an SNL skit in this movie. And it's just constant cutaways. The cutaways in the first one, as I was talking about in the first one, make some sense. Like, for example, the one I gave in my review of Ted is when Laurie is picking up the turd from the hookers. It works as a cutaway because it was meaningful to the story. This really doesn't feel meaningful to the story. There's a couple bits. For example, the one big one that I hate is the SNL one, where it's connected to SNL, where it's connected to like 3 news reports. And it does remind me a little bit of the first one when it's towards the beginning, they're like, oh, Ted the Bear's alive. And then it's, and then look what Jesus did. Very similar to that. So this one goes on and on and on and on. And it just, it didn't feel like it had a point to me in this one as much. There's also like, oh, let's celebrate. Let's go to the comedy club and talk about depressing things. It had nothing to do with the story. They just had a bit that they wanted to put in there, which they've had in Family Guy. If you've watched any episodes of Family Guy, most of these jokes are from Family Guy. Sperm falling on a person, that's in Family Guy, one of the earlier seasons. The comedy scene bit, I think, is in an episode of Family Guy. Just a lot of these cutaways are Family Guy, and it didn't feel original this time around. Also, the story kind of is the same thing by the end of the movie. The end of this movie ends the exact same way that Ted really did, just different locations, different people, different kind of things. And it's just the exact same movie all over again, to the point that Mark Wahlberg's character literally goes, it's like deja vu. And it is deja vu because it's literally the first one all over again. They also brought back Giovanni Ribisi's character. I just did not think that was necessary. It feels out of place in the movie, honestly. It basically just did what the first one did, where he needed to get kidnapped again. What was the point of it? I don't know. Why couldn't we just have a story about Ted needing to become a person? I don't understand why I had to get all serious. Again, what I said about my Ted review is, why do we have to get serious by the end of a comedy movie? Why can't we have a story about Ted becoming a person, being sad that he didn't get it? They were in New York. New York's filled with crime. New York, maybe Johnny jumps in front of a taxi cab in New York City. Why does it have to be at Comic-Con and his name's Donnie, I think. Donnie, cuts down the Enterprise and knocks Johnny out and almost kills him. Like, I just didn't think that needed to be in there. It just felt unnecessary to me. And just some of the jokes just felt just unneeded. Like, for example, and it's funny, like, at the beginning of the movie, there's a joke where there's candy in this. Can we have one of those card candies? Oh, no, those aren't supposed to be on there. And then it comes back again with Morgan Freeman, and it's just, yeah, we already got that one. And it just didn't work for me. Whereas something like the Gollum Eyes, for example, with Amanda Seyfried, that one worked. They did that one a couple times, and that one works. So there's just some jokes in here that come back a couple times, and it's just like, you got it the first time. It's not funny again. You don't need to do it again. Think of something else. And it just doesn't fully work. My favorite absolute joke in this movie, though, is the Jurassic Park marijuana field joke thing. Absolutely love it. My absolute favorite. I still laugh at that. And I'm not going to say this movie isn't funny. There's some funny bits for sure. It's just a messy story. And this one is even longer. I didn't watch the unrated cut. This one's what? 2 hours, 5 minutes. The unrated cut's 2 hours, 5 minutes. I think the original cut is like 2 hours. And again, a comedy just does not need to be 2 hours long. It's just not something I feel comedies should really be. Hour and a half. Hour 45 is pushing it. The first 10 is a little too long in my opinion. Pushed it. So yeah, not that I don't hate this movie. It's not as good as the first. It's just not. Not at all. And it is messy. It's really messy. I want to like this one, but I just can't get into it. And I almost wonder if they should have waited for Mila Kunis to have her child and then come back. Because I like the chemistry of the three of them together. We spent the whole... Mila Kunis literally brought Ted back to life because she wanted her life back. And then they get divorced. It's just... I don't know. And then we're spending half the movie Johnny's being all sad. And it's just like... It's a little bit of a depressing movie at times. I'm getting tired, so I should probably wrap this up. Yeah, I really do like this movie. In the past, I've been really, really harsh on this movie. I think I gave it like a 5 out of 10, a 4 out of 10. This movie's better than that. I still think it's not a 4 out of 10. It's more like a 5 out of 10. It's closer to a 6 for me. It's still really well done in moments, but there's just a lot of things kind of just put in there to be put in there. And again, it just feels like an SNL skit, the entire movie. And nobody loves SNL necessarily. They love parts of SNL, especially nowadays, you know? You like a certain skit from SNL every night. You don't actually just like, that was a great show all the way through. There's always just that bad skit. And it feels like there's a lot of bad skits in here. And again, just stuff we've already seen. The sperm falling over on people thing. The comedy skit bit. Just so many things that just feel out of place in this movie. And it just shouldn't. Again, another one, the Liam Neeson thing. Don't get me wrong, I like the scene, it's funny. The end credit scene, if you haven't watched the end credits, that pops up again. But what is the purpose? Except to have Liam Neeson in there talking about tricks. It just feels like something that should be in in Family Guy or SNL skit or something like that. Not in a Ted movie. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10, guys. It's not bad. It's a movie that I have not rewatched at all as much as the first. But I have gone back to watch it occasionally. Every few years, I have to watch this movie because I watched the first one. And I just like, again, the chemistry between Mark Wahlberg and Teddy Bear is just great. It works. I love that it's a friendship movie. I love that. Yeah, and I wish this one had just focused on that a bit more, I guess, too. It just didn't quite do it. So, you guys, that is my review of Ted 2. I hope you've enjoyed this little Ted mini-series. Tomorrow, I am hoping to have out my top 10 worst of the year. And then we're going to go from there. Maybe have another movie review of some kind up. Before then, I've actually been really wanting to watch a 2014 movie that I was talking about at work with someone. So hopefully I'll have that out soon. So yeah, guys, until then, I hope you have a great night. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. We'll see you next time.